what kind of services we offer at Cornell Agritech, as well as some New York State licensing requirements for value-added products. So hopefully this can, elucidate and kind of clarify some things that you need, because it can be quite confusing. I know if you're a new manufacturer and you've never done this before. So first of all, um, Cornell's Food Venture Center is located at Cornell Agritech. This is in Geneva, New York. It's at the top of Seneca Lake, and it is the New York State Agricultural Experiment Station is what it has been originally called, and for over 100 years. It's a campus of Cornell University, but there's not so many undergraduate students on this campus. There's more graduate staff and faculty here. We do all kinds of research and technology and education around different aspects of the food system, everything from horticulture, plant pathology, integrated pest management, and food science are located here at Cornell Agritech. So we have 900 acres of fields, orchards, vineyards, and there's greenhouses and other kinds of resources here, laboratories, that just basically kind of help farmers and other people in the food system, with new technologies, new techniques, new varieties, new processing techniques. And most of the people who work here at our campus are in extension and outreach. So many services are here just to help you and to help people who are in the food system. I'm going to go into a little bit more of those details. Okay, so one thing that's located at Cornell Agritech is the New York State Center for Excellence in Food and Agriculture. And, oh, sorry. And that is, it's a program that's funded by the state, but it's housed here at Agritech. And the Center of Excellence really helps uh, business owners who are in any type of agriculture or food system. So they really help kind of connect people with resources that they might need, including like supply chain or, funding, like capital funding, whether it's like a private investor or grant opportunities. They also help connect people with co-packers or just kind of, help to be a mentor basically and get their products out there because they are connected with all different parts of the food system. So their services are free, and they can help you even like connect you write a business plan with what you want to be doing too. So I encourage you to reach out to them if you have any questions or you feel like there's something that you're a little bit stuck on. The Center of Excellence can be a great resource. They have not only a great staff, but they also have some other programs. One is this Food Spark program, which is I worked on with the Food Venture Center, putting together a 5-part food product development certificate program. It's something that is available on the eCornell platform, and it's fantastic. It basically helps food entrepreneurs who have an idea for a value-added product move from the idea phase all the way through the commercialization phase through 5 2-week courses. There is a live facilitator where basically the students, as a student, you use your product idea for the project in each section. So there's a marketing, research, and product development piece. There's a food safety and quality, food processing and packaging, regulatory agencies and food regulations, and then the commercialization and scale up. And you use your ideas for the project, submit that, and then get feedback from the facilitator. So it's great. You can like test out different ideas. Like you might have an idea for one type of packaging, but you're also maybe comparing it to another kind and get some better feedback before launching it. So the course itself is amazing. eCornell offers this course normally for about, I think, $3,500, but through the Food Spark scholarship with the Center of Excellence, so far we've had 2 cohorts go through, and it's a scholarship that costs the learner only $200. So it's fantastic. If you're interested in doing something like that, keep your eyes open for when it's offered again. And I would encourage you to seek that out. The other thing that we have here at Agritech that's related to the Center of Excellence is the Food Innovation Lab. So That is also fantastic. It's kind of like a commercial kitchen, but also a lab at the same time. So you may be kind of working on the development of your product and know that it needs to maybe have a lower pH for safety. So not only is there every kind of small, you know, food equipment from like a deep fryer to a little steam kettle to dehydrators in this lab. There's also pH meters, water activity meters, and then you have kind of access to our food science staff also to ask questions as you're going along. So it's a great it's a great resource for sure for as like a small resource, and it's fairly inexpensive to rent on a daily basis. Um, and then kind of related to that is our pilot plant. So this is the next step up. Say um, you have your product, you've been making it in a commercial kitchen, you've been bringing it to the farmers markets, it's getting really successful, and you know you're going to need to scale up. Well, how does that affect your formulation? How does that affect your process? Our pilot plant is about 10,000 square feet. It has all different kinds of equipment and technical assistance from our staff where you can kind of try out some of these things and how you would scale up your idea, your formulation, and your processing to make it work for larger commercialization. It's available on like usually it's a half day or full day basis for renting. It's not a place that you would say co-pack on a regular basis. It wouldn't be affordable in that way, but it's a great place to figure out what you would want to tell your co-packer. Like, this is how I want to make my product. This is how it works really well. So, so that's another resource that we have.
Hello?
Oh, sorry. Okay. Um, sorry about that. Um, the other resource that we have here at the Agritech is the Institute for Food Safety at Cornell University, and actually half of my time, more than half of my time, is dedicated to this program. And we offer a lot of online training programs. So one is the current good manufacturing practices, which is required for any manufacturer related to the Food Safety Modernization Act. We also have another course that is, information, food safety, and regulatory requirements for the small food processors. And these are available online to take. They're pretty affordable classes as well, and most of them are self-directed. So these are all available on our website. The QR code will take you to the website there as well. And then the Food Venture Center, which is where I work for. What we do is we provide assistance to people who are making value-added products, and our focus is on food safety. So to get your product out there, it's not only the quality, obviously, that you have to be concerned about, but also that it's a safe product, and what you need to do that, especially when you are making like a shelf stable product. So what we are is what's called a processing authority service. And that's when we it's a person or institution that has expert knowledge, expertise, and the facilities to make these determinations about the safety of a food process and a formulation. And the Department of Ag and Markets in New York State is quite familiar with our processing authority services. And often if they go to a manufacturer and they're not certain about the safety of a product, they'll say, go ahead and call the Food Venture Center, call Cornell, because you'll need to have that product reviewed and validated for safety. The things that we do is generally it's called like a process review or a scheduled process that you would have done with your product, which basically means that your product is going to be you would send us a sample of your product along with a submission form. We test it for specific critical factors of safety. Most of the time, it's very simple testing. Most shelf-stable products, which means that they are safe, unrefrigerated, as long as they remain unopened, will have a critical factors related to the pH or the acidity of a product or the water activity of a product, which is kind of the amount of available water in that product. Both of those things, if they're within certain parameters, microorganisms that are either pathogens or spoilage microorganisms are not able to grow. So we can evaluate the safety of certain shelf-stable products pretty quickly and for pretty inexpensively. And this is what, Ag and Marks is going to want to see. And if you have a shelf-stable product and it's what's called an acidified product, something like pickles, for example, would be an acidified shelf-stable product. You not only need the schedule process for the state, but you also need it to send to the FDA. They will require it. So I'm not going to go into too many of those details right now, but the point is that these documents that we produce for manufacturers are really important to help get your products out there into the market. The other things that we do at the Food Venture Center is we do some product consultation. We do trainings. We have actually today, which is why I have to jump off, a better process control school, which is if you have an acidified shelf-stable product, you are required to take this better process control school by the FDA. They want to make sure that you know the inherent risk of these products. So we offer this school virtually about 4 times a year. And then I did mention the other programs that are available online. This is just kind of to give you an idea. This was from 2021, but we do have a lot of requests for assistance, about 7,000 in 2021. And we approve about, we receive about 3,000 samples per year, and then about 1,400 of those are new products. And some of them are obviously, that's not all of them. Some people, if you decide that you have a product and you want to change it, you also have to have all of your documentation updated and make sure that your critical factors remain the same. There's nothing that would change the safety of your product. So that's how those numbers kind of go. And I'll just give a really quick, a little more information about the schedule process here. Because generally, as I mentioned, if you're doing like a shelf-stable product, this is what you're going to need to do. This is our primary service that we perform here at the Food Venture Center. And when you submit the form to us, and I think I have here, this is what the schedule process actually looks like. So you can see, in that yellow box on the up-hand side, that's the critical factors for safety. So these are the things that are keeping this product safe. This is let's see, I think it's pickled garlic. So the pH is something that's going to keep it safe, as well as the solids in this product and the processing temperature and the processing time. So this is a water bath process. It's a fictitious product that we made up. So we do operate under complete confidentiality. So you don't have to worry about that. We wouldn't be able to do our job otherwise. But you can see it has the name of the product. It'll have the date. It'll have the name of your business, the address, where it's located, the critical factors for safety, and then your formulation. And when you submit the forms to us, you're going to want to make sure to put all your formulation in there by weight only. We can't use volumes. You can see it gets broken down by percentages. This is so you can use the same schedule process to scale up or down, as time goes on, because you can use the percentages. So meaning we need everything in like grams, ounces, or pounds. We can't use things like cups or teaspoons or fluid ounces or number of garlic cloves, for example. We need everything to be standardized so that, say, down the road, your pickled garlic gets so popular, you want to go to a co-packer, they can use the same schedule process and just scale it up like 20 times or 50 times or however much you want. And the critical factors will still be the same. And then it has the procedure down at the bottom of the things that you must do. And again, we keep these things pretty general. Like we'll say, you can see number 2, combine the ingredients and heat to 195. We won't say heat in some kind of specific container, or even in the ingredients, we won't say the specific brand of the ingredients, so that you can continue to use this scheduled process if something changes in your operation or in your supply chain or whatever. So that's kind of what a scheduled process looks like, to give you an idea. And here's the forms that can be found on our website. So if you have a product that is going to need a review, you can find this on our website. You do a quick search for Cornell Food Venture Center, and there on the site, there's a link to submitting your products for review. And then this is, again, like you can see, you put all of your ingredients listed there, and the description, and again, by the weight. And then the second page is all about how you make that product from beginning to end, as detailed as possible. So, then we can review it and understand how you do everything. So, I know I'm kind of at about the end of my time here, Lindsay. I can go forward and talk a little bit more about the 20C license, but I want to make sure that I am respecting the time that you need to finish your presentation.
I can talk about the home processor and 20C license in my
Mhm.
presentation. So
Okay.
I know you've got your other presentation to do too. So
hmm Okay, great.
thank you.
Well,
Thank you much,
you're
Cynthia.
you're welcome. Thanks for having me. Let me stop my share. Perfect.
I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So I'm going to kind of add on to what Cynthia was doing. She did a great job explaining the Food Venture Center, way better than what I could have done. So I'm going to kind of just hit upon a lot of stuff briefly because there are so many value-added products out there. When you think about, um, if you have fruits and vegetables, or fruits and vegetables to dairy to meat to like beauty products. So I'm going to kind of show you more where to find things overall, and then I'll answer some questions at the end. One thing I want to hit upon, which Cynthia hit upon too, was about certifications. Is when you're thinking about some of these value-added products that you might be considering doing in the future, is some places, and especially markets, you might need certain certifications, third-party certifications, audits for food safety, quality, or second-party audits, depending on specific what you're doing. There's also safety priorities. So some places where you market your product, they might want a HACCP plan, which is hazardous analysis critical control points. You might need a food safety plan developed in order to sell a product someplace. You might need, because of where you're producing it, you might need to show a good manufacturing practices. And then there's also different environmental programs. So we can help you at Cornell when you're moving forward in product development of, what type of markets you're thinking and what type of certifications you might need behind those, because they're all very different. So this just gets into, with licensing and regulatory considerations, is there is, depending where you're selling stuff, there is state and federal compliances of where you're allowed to be able to sell things and license things that go along with that. So that's what we're going to kind of talk a little bit about in the future slides. Also think about, when you're thinking about developing a value added product, is insurance. Having a conversation with your insurance company to make sure what you're producing is you're covered, just in case that something happens, like you create a beauty product, and there's people are allergic to it. Same thing with food. If there people are allergic to, is making sure that you're covered with your insurance. What are you producing? And you want to have these conversations with your insurance company about where you're producing it, what you're producing and where you're producing. So based on if it's a food product, what they're okay with under your insurance policy. Beauty products, specifically sometimes when people are making soap, and that's why I have the picture of soap, because there's an option to like melt and pour, which is very, an easy process to make soap, versus if you're making soap and there's lye involved, there's a whole chemical process, and then also a curing process of at least 30 days, is making sure your insurance company is okay, because I've seen insurance companies that won't let people make soap in their own, like their kitchen, and be able to sell it to the public. Also packaging. I ran across this with my farm operation, is how things are packaged. Glass was something the insurance company asked me about was, do you have glass in your farm shop? And I said, yep, I have glass. So they added it to my policy. And then also where your location of your sales are going to be. Your insurance company is going to want to know if it's on the farm stand, it's at a farmer's market, if you're doing online sales. That's all information you want to make sure that you're covered with insurance. When you think about your value added products, what am I going to be marketing? So think about what you can produce, what you're producing on your farm, and what you can potentially make out of those. So, what is your product? What's the best method to package for presenting my product? I see this a lot too with people who I'm going to give an example of the maple industry because we're going through Maple Weekend across the state. Is I've seen like when it comes down to maple products, how they're packaged, just specifically maple syrups. Some people use the big, the gallon heavy duty plastic container and have different, have their farm information on it. And then I've seen anywhere to like the small little maple, the little the 2 ounce containers of maple to the glass ones. And depending where you want to selling that, I know when I was looking at products to bring down to New York City, a lot of their maple products were in glass containers versus like the traditional bigger heavy set gallon or even half-gallon containers. Just depending where you're going to market to and what that product kind of needs to look like. What need or niche does that product fill? How much shelving space, depending on what the packaging looks like, where it's going to be placed, height, sometimes takes into consideration the stability of the product and how long that product's going to be able to last in the market. And then also, when I kind of mentioned before, is like with a big maple gallon or half gallon or even like smaller containers, is the branding and how that really like flashes out to the public. I'm not going to hit too much about this, but to obtain a process review. So Cynthia mentioned this before, is they are an authorized outlet, the Food Venture Center, to do your schedule process review. And so this was required for many of food products manufactured within the state because it shows that critical control point. So it's important to figure out what you're going to do and if you're going to need this. And I'm going to kind of give you some examples of like where you would need that and where you wouldn't need that in the future. So New York State Ag and Markets has a home processor license. It's an actual free license that is available through the state. It's a great outlet because you're able to produce a lot of products within your own home kitchen. As I mentioned before, the cost is free for this licensing, but it does have limitations about where you're allowed to be able to sell this. So you can wholesale retail, including agricultural venues such as farms, farm stands, farmers markets, green markets, craft fairs, and flea markets via home delivery or via the internet, but the sale of the product needs to be sold within New York State. It has to be prepackaged at your home. You can't just bring, a platter to the farmer's market and then repackage it. It all has to be prepackaged ahead of time, labeled. And then also always can think about where, when you have a business, your local zoning and approving if you're allowed to do this type of venture out of your home. There is a list of approved and prohibited products. And when I send out the recording for this, I'll also send out this PowerPoint that has these links in it because it's important to know what you can produce and what you can't produce in a home processor kitchen. You can, do like bagels, bread. You can repackage like herbs. You can make cookies, cupcakes. There are things that are more of a higher risk that you need to do in a commercial kitchen, which I'll talk about in the next couple slides. Those higher risk would be stuff that's like dipped in chocolate, chocolate candies. That's a high risk. You're not able to do that in a home processor kitchen. And usually things that are done in a home processor kitchen are things that aren't going to need that scheduled processing of that whole process review. You can do like jellies too in the kitchen, but there's certain things like when you make pastas or like pickles that would need um, that that extra step of a commercial license and that scheduled processing. So labeling for home processor. So what you do is you have your farm name, you have your full address, and when you're taking and listing products that are in that item, so like in cookies, you list the things that are the largest quantity first, and then you go down and weight. So example, I would say like flour, the flour, the butter, the sugar, and then like for chocolate chips, like maybe the chocolate chips actually are in the last part. You have to list all allergens. So if you have eggs, milk, fish, shellfish, soybeans, peanuts, tree nuts, should be clearly labeled. Especially you want to also put on there that this may contain this because it's this kitchen has peanuts or something that are done in it too. So a 20C is a commercial license. There is a different there are different capacities of a commercial kitchen. This is more that you're going to have either be renting a kitchen, using a co-packer, which is a way around having to build a kitchen. So 20C kitchens, you could, like I mentioned, rent the space, have somebody else do those products that need to be developed in that 20C kitchen through a co-packer. These are going to be more things that have higher risk. And a 20C kitchen is also, the process is through New York State ag markets. It may require also inspection from like a local health department. This also in the commercial kitchen allows you to do different things with meat. Like say you want to be able to repackage meat, you have to do that in a commercial kitchen. As you can see kind of in this little description, you're able to make sandwiches, and you can do a lot more versus a home processor license is very low risk things that you can produce. Labeling for the 20C is also very similar. You're going to name the manufacturer, the place of the business, ingredient declaration, and net quantity of the contents of the products. There are exemptions from a commercial kitchen when it comes down to it. That would be anything when you're producing with alcohol, that's a 20C exemption. Honey producers, maple syrup processors. So that's more filling the containers. If you start thinking about doing maple with, like infusing it with like lavender or making maple syrup, like the candies, that needs to be done in a commercial kitchen. But to be able to fill up containers of maple syrup and sell them to the public, there's a 20C exemption. And there's actually a form on New York State Ag Markets web page to be able to fill that information out. Hops processing, because that has a kill process, that gets an exemption. And then malt houses, slicing and packaging at cheese at farmers market. Just because any type of wine, brewery, distillery, or hard cider, that all has a kill process, and that's the reason why it has that exemption. But to do those value-added products, you still have to have licensing through New York State State Liquor Authority and also through the TTB. So that is a process that can take anywhere from 6 months to a year, and I'm happy to help people kind of walk them through of what that process is. Dairy licensing. So there is, if you're thinking about receiving or processing milk, there is a dairy license that is required. This also includes from milk, dairy products, and frozen desserts, or any other any other different products that you can make with dairy products. There's on your State Ag and Markets webpage, there's applications for frozen dessert manufacturing and handling license, applications for being a milk dealer license. So there's a lot of, depending on what you're producing, there's many different licensings that are out there. So our Dairy Foods Extension program has a wonderful program of all the different things that requirements and what is needed in order to have this any type of processing for dairy products. So if you want to reach out to their program. And also on your state, and this is for all labeling information, it's all on your state ag and markets webpage. So there's specific labeling requirements for dairy products. And then overall, I've kind of hit up on this a little bit, is when it comes down to labeling, pretty much across the board is you want to have identity of the food, principal display panel, information panel of what that product is, labeling information requirements, which, we're gonna, for the language, it would be English, most likely English, any type of imitation foods, and then think about what type of packaging you're going to be using when it comes down to labeling to make sure it's displayed nicely. A lot of the products, like Cynthia was mentioning with the schedule processing, that has that nutritional information, like when we pick up a box of cereal or like even a soda, it has that nutritional information. So when you start to take and make things more in, when you get that schedule process review, that information is on there and that should be placed on the products. And then, there's also, if you're going to be producing stuff that may go outside of the state, there's going to also be different requirements in regards to that. So I just want to mention for meat and labeling. So on Cornell Small Farms programs, there's a guide to direct marketing of livestock and poultry, and there's information of actually any type of labeling requirements that are for meat. If you're looking to take in, alter meat that's gone through a USDA facility and like repackage it, that is usually done in a 20C kitchen, and it's only used for direct sales of that product. One of the things that has come up a lot over the years is the different cosmetic products. So that program is run through the FDA. For small businesses that are under $1 million, there is no like actual facility registration that you have to go through. I would advise, and doing a little bit of research depending on what you're going to be producing, is in sticking to what requirements FDA has in regards to, labeling the product. It's going to be, your branding, the product name, the location of that product, any type of ingredients that are in it. So if you're making, cosmetic products, you'd be labeling those from largest quantity to smallest quantity, have expiration dates, and that's information about that. The other thing I want to bring up too, and I've run across this over the years, is co-packer versus doing it yourself. And so I'm going to kind of talk in a couple slides about like how to find a co-packer, things to consider. And so the first thing I'm going to start off with is like confidentiality. So when you're thinking about finding a co-packer, they're going to be producing that product for you versus you have to making a facility. Ideally your product is something that you've developed that you like and you want to be selling to the public. So you don't want people to be, selling that information to anybody. So making sure that whoever you're working with, you have a signed contract in regards to confidentiality. Make sure that you have a lawyer look it over to make sure that this makes sense and that you do have legal backing for what that product that you have. cost, and why I'm bringing this up is cost to build a facility. So I live in Northern New York, and a number of years ago, we did starting a winery in Northern New York, consider the considerations and the costs to do that. So this link will be in is in this presentation I'll be sending out. So you can kind of look at like what we looked at, from anywhere from tanks to like presses for the grapes, like everything that you need, all the way to bottles, to try to figure out what's the cost for building a facility when it comes down to it, because that's really important, especially moving forward, determining, building a facility, or do I use a co-packer. Also, you need to know what the co-packer's capabilities are. We at the Cornell Food Venture Center, there is a list of traditional co-packer lists to find co-packers all across the New York State and across like the Northeast. Co-packers could be anyone from a facility you need and willingness to engage in a business relationship with you. And it's really important, I think, to look at several different co-packers to make sure it's going to be the right fit for your business based on their capacity. Knowing what the co-packers volume, the minimum, max, and how frequency they can do runs of products. What type of equipment they have for receiving, receiving like those products that you might have from the farm to be able to process. And then also what packaging capabilities. I worked at a processing facility at one point in my career. And, when you go into larger facilities, the amount of equipment, the size of the equipment, all depends on what, that people are doing for runs. So it's important to know what type of equipment these operations have. What type of labor capacity to be able to do this, if they're going to be, a hit or miss on a labor crew that might not fit in your time frame. What type of expertise they have for making these different products, and then also storage locations. So like dry, cool, or frozen, depending on what type of product they're making. So this is packaging I always like to bring up, because packaging's been something that comes up when I've gone from Northern New York down to New York City, especially when it comes down to recycling. So what type of packaging is going to work for your market? Also, what's going to work for the co-packer? Where to find it, how regularly you're going to be able to find that packaging. Some companies I know of the last couple of years have had a harder time with glass and plastic products. So it's important to know what you're going to be able to find to have a consistent packaging. Testing the packaging to make sure that, if it's leak proof, how well it's going to ship. Some things may need to be food grade, especially people are going to be eating it. So you need to make sure you have food grade packaging if it's needed for that specific product that you're producing. Know how things are going to be packaged, if it needs to be cool or cold storage. And then how packaging is going to fit on your shelving. And then overall, the appearance of the packaging. I know when I've developed products over the year, I know my packaging has changed based on my customer, the availability, and not having 24 different types of packaging when you want to take and move it to a smaller amount. So just additional, as I kind of mentioned before, is the shelf appearance. Really want to highlight that. That will open up markets, or not open up markets, depending on what things look like on the shelf. Environmental friendly. As I mentioned before, when I was down in New York City, when we were bringing products into, that was a big thing, is that we had some products that were individually small packaging wrapped with plastic. It wasn't going to be good. We weren't going to be able to sell that product to like a restaurant. They would rather have like a very recyclable packaging that you can just pull out those items and then be able to put them in products in the restaurant very easily. Think about how things are going to be transported and shipped. and then reusable packaging, glass bottles for the environmental friendly component. And then some resources that I kind of mentioned before is New York State Ag and Markets has all this information on their website in regards to value added products, Cornell Food Venture Center, and then also Dairy Foods Extension.